Okay, let's see if we can't get through this Barstool interview with SJ Tuohy.
What's up,
Can you
Squad?
hear us?
How we doing,
Yeah, I
man?
got you. I've had better days.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. We were just kind of running through your situation, but it's probably best for you to tell it in your own words since you know everything.
And let me start by, Sean, I said that you are my Disney Connect. You're a brick watch man. And there's an element to this where people are like, oh, of course Barstool had his back. So this is the most natural, like, oh, of course he went to Barstool. We see that coming. But let's hear, tell your story. Obviously, everyone read the ESPN article.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would think a company that employs Brandon Walker has my back naturally, so it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, I don't have a ton of crazy story. I wanted to not have to respond to everyone asking about it, and it gives me a good outlet to say, well, I already talked to them. Look at that if you have questions about it. Because at least I know that whether it's true media or journalism, all that BS aside, someone can have an actual conversation and talk to, and I could at least speak something if there was questions to be asked and refer back to that and not have to deal with it, the next couple days.
So let's start with this then. Did this lawsuit surprise you, or you knew it was coming?
I knew it was coming. I mean, it was a matter of time. It's surprising because it's Monday, you wake up like a normal day, but this is not his first one. It's been a couple of years in the making. I was surprised that it happened the way it did, but no one was.
So did y'all understand the answer to that question? The question number 1 was, did the lawsuit surprise you? Yes or no? He said yes, no, and then he said something about it being a Monday. And I'm just trying to understand, what does the day of the week have to do with anything? But he's already making mistakes with this interview. And to be fair, the contracts and all of that, I'm sure, was initiated when he was a child, when he was a minor. So the mess that his family is in started with his parents, I'm sure. But he's been tasked with speaking out to defend his parents, who are obviously wrong.
So then one theory that we were talking about a little bit earlier, you just mentioned 2 years in the making, is that there's a book coming out. And then we thought that anytime there is timing, but you think that's just coincidental or not?
I mean, I don't know. Truthfully, I read the book. I was a purchaser of the book. I supported it. I think it was very positive. Not towards us, but towards someone that is going through it in life. I would never shy away from saying, you should read that. There's good truth in there. I don't know, coincidence or not. I mean, it seems obviously tough timing. The same day the book comes out.
It's literally the same day. It's
What?
So if you want to know how SJ really feels, look at the man in the bluish gray shirt to the far left. That's how he really feels, because that's who he's spoken to privately. And he was trying to prod him into saying, hey, this is BS. He did this on the same day as his book, as, the release of his book. So he's not saying it. His friend is saying it for him.
All right, so the number one things he's saying, the conservatorship versus the adoption. I know you talked a little bit about Kevin. Like, what is your take on that's the main claim, right? And pretty recent, as February 2023 is when Michael says he realized the difference and what it meant. Like, what did you?
But wait, even before you answer that, if you're saying this is like there's been multiple lawsuits regarding this conservatorship.
Not against the family specifically, but to the movie companies and all that kind of stuff. I believe this is not the first.
Got it. Okay.
Go around.
So he had issues, was suing other entities, then finds out that he wasn't technically adopted, but it's a conservatorship, and that's when he puts you guys in the crosshairs.
So as you can see, he fumbles with this water bottle because he's nervous. He knows that he's planted and he's given information to the guy in the gray t-shirt, bluish gray t-shirt, and that guy is going to say what it is that he doesn't want to say. He's putting it out there that this isn't the first time. So what? Note how he picks that water bottle up or whatever that, that's in that bottle twice, plays around with the cap, but never once takes a sip. He's nervous because he knows that he has spoken to him privately, and he knows the things that he has said to him.
Again, I don't want to speak to things here. I'm going to preface, in case someone says this freaking guy, I'm not going to listen to him anymore. I'm going to preface by saying that I loved Mike at 16. I love Mike at now he's 16 and a half years old, 37. And I love him at 67. So there's not going to be any legal dossier or thing that happens is going to maybe go like screw that guy. It's not the case. I'll be mad at him. But to your initial point, no. I mean, if he says he learned that in February, I find that hard to believe. I went back to my text today to look at. I was curious today randomly to go back to look at our family group texts and text to see what things had been said, and there were things back in 2020, 2021 that were like, if you guys give me this much, then I won't go public with things. And
so he casually says that I have text dating back 2 years that he said, if you give me this, I won't say anything. And so you see how his friend is like, his body language is get on with it. Let everybody know that he was trying to shake y'all down for some money. Now pay attention to the brother. He keeps talking about the text. These are brothers though, right? And note that this will not be the last time that he mentioned text messages that he has from the family chat.
I think a lot of the, a lot of mentioning of the movie and how much money it makes also kind of implies that you guys as a family were benefiting and he was not. Was everybody but him getting paid off of that, or how'd the money shake out?
He really gets nervous at this point. Pay attention to what he says and what he doesn't say. It's important what he doesn't say. More important than what he does say.
No, and I don't want to take too much thunder, and I don't know if I can legally say this, but I know there's an article being written in the Atlantic with a couple guys that were really, really understand the finances of that situation really well, and that will be something to look for. But
note how he cut himself off again. He said there's some guys from the Atlantic that we're, and then he said, well, they understand the finances of it. Just say that we're friends with.
No, I've never once talked about truthfully how much money I have made off the movie.
Truthfully and honestly, these are what you call qualifiers. People often use these when they're lying.
But candidly, I don't care how much. It's going to be public record that ours anyway. But for years, I remember when I got the first check from the University of Arkansas. We were in Memphis, and we were.
Truthfully, candidly, honestly, pay attention when these words are used. There is a reason for it. I think his parents should be interviewed.
Try not to give me illegal recruiting implications.
What?
Try not to give me illegal recruiting implications.
A legal recruiting implication?
I was around my house at the time, and I met my dad for lunch, and he gave me the check, and I'm like, we get paid off this thing? He's like, yeah, it's made so much money now that like they can't hide it. I think there was like a 2.5% kicker down the line. Again, it'll be public, so someone that really cares to go back and read through it can do so.
Look at how he just downplayed receiving a pretty sizable check. He's trying to pretend that $14,000 isn't any money. $60,000 to $70,000 over the last couple of years isn't any money.
And I bet through that we as in me personally only, because I can speak for that, I've made like 60, 70 grand over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. It comes in like the first year was like a $14,000 check, and then it was like an 8 and 7 and whatever, so on, so forth down. That math didn't add up, but it started off a little higher and then it went down. Which after it made hundreds of millions of dollars, I think that someone said, okay, we can't hide this any longer. The money he's suing for is actually the same thing. It'll be very well documented. It was I was reading through this morning, but it was a couple $100,000 that the movie actually gave us. I don't remember the timeline because I was young and I wasn't involved.
For is actually the same thing. It'll be very well documented. It was I was reading through this morning, but it was a couple $100,000 that the movie actually gave us. I don't remember the timeline because I was young and I wasn't involved, but
So you see what just happened there. He put out some information that he knows that the public is going to dig up. So the studio actually donated $200,000 to his family.
You had to donate the money?
Yeah, so not personally from the money. Like when the movie came out, we got paid off the naming rights. We got like $12,000, and then off those same naming rights, 10 years later, me personally got $14,000, whatever it was, and then so on and so forth down. But like maybe 4 or 5 years after the movie came out, and it was clear it was making a lot of money. You'll see this in the article, but I want to say Alcon, I guess. Someone's like, hey, this is doing great. It's a great story. We're going to donate $400,000 to charities of your choice. I'm sure they had to write something on.
So let me tell you what we already know. They are trying to jump ahead of information that they know is going to come out. That's why he keeps talking about the article.
And they did 200 to my family's foundation, the Making It Happen Foundation, and then Mike's was going to be 200 separately. And it's super well documented. That and he was middle plan too, so he had a lot going on at the time. That probably wasn't a ton of money to him, but he was like, I don't want to be involved with that. I don't want the money from it, and declined the exact money that I think is mentioned. And again,
look at how he's downplaying that. I think it was the exact money that he's talking about. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. When it came to Michael Oher, he was offered charity, a charitable donation, a donation. But when it came down to the Tuohys and their children, they were contractually obligated to pay them. So Michael Oher is an option. He's charity, he's donation. But the Tuohys, when it comes down to them and their children, it is a contract. And the reason why he's coming out with this now, because there are a lot of questionable donations. I've looked at 10 years worth of records. And what he's doing here is jumping ahead of the story. They have to get out in front of this. They have to. This is the reason why they have their people, in my opinion, at the Atlantic putting out a piece to explain away what they're doing. Now, these are people that reportedly sold their company for $200+ million. But when you look at this foundation, and this may not be the only foundation, but when you look at Make It Happen Foundation, the charitable donations that they give out almost always are 3 in number. That's it. They're not raising money and they're not giving away a ton of money. In my opinion, from looking at 10 years worth of records, IRS records, this particular donation that he's speaking of, it was a backdoor way to get them money, a backdoor way to get more money.
I don't go too much into the legal piece, but I know that was in the ESPN article of a couple $100,000. That's what that's referring to. And that's documented. I don't know.
There he goes with the word documented. He keeps repeating documented. Let me tell you why. When somebody keeps doing that, it is because they're trying to convince the listeners that because something is documented, that it must be correct, that it must be legit, that it is above board. And I can tell you that I have looked at 10 years worth of records and something in the milk ain't clean. And don't think for 1 minute that this Alcorn, that this donation from Hollywood, as he said, is the only one. It's not. Additionally, if somebody keeps saying candidly, truthfully, honestly, and just keeps repeating documented, these are qualifiers. They are saying this to set the stage for the lie that they are about to tell. There's a lot more to this story and he knows a lot more than he's letting on.
All the announcements that I was obviously a lot younger than I am now when some of that stuff was going on, but it's hard, man. Like when that stuff came out, the time to monetize that would have been like right after the movie. He's playing the NFL. I was, in college. and obviously his monetization would have been 50 million times more than me. But like if NIL was a thing back then, I'd have been crushing it with stupid ass T-shirts and
Right.
you name it. But
so then I guess it would be more what he's upset about if he's upset, which he clearly is, would be more of a principle thing because it's not a big money. Being like the family doesn't seem large checks, but they got some checks, or he could just be mad that, like what you said on the Hollywood, and Kevin, you were saying it, the movie made $300 million or whatever. Somebody clearly is making a ton of money off that movie, and he's not seeing any of it. And I could see, listen, if someone made a movie that I thought was about me, and I see it sold 300 million box office, and I don't see anything, I could see how that would upset me. And then it's where does the anger go? I guess, right?
Yeah, I
Do you see the stunned look on his friend's face? They're all looking like, dude, are you serious? So a $200,000 or $400,000 donation came in and it went to your family. Is that what you're saying? Look at how stunned they even look, because they know, they can sense that something isn't right here. But nobody interjects with a question, any sort of question about it. I don't know what their rating is on that charity, but I can tell you that I'm not unsophisticated with nonprofits, and this should be a double F. And you see how disingenuous his so-called brother is. So he's saying he's suing for the same amount of money that was offered to him as a donation, knowing full well that that is not the same thing, knowing full well that there's all sorts of other money that they have enriched themselves with, the already wealthy family.
The main reason I wanted to initially come on this, and I'm mostly joking, but like my friends were roasting me in the group chat, like, because this article says I got $2 million out of this thing, and I'm like, man, if I had $2 million in the bank account, it would be in my email.
Make sure you recognize the double speak. Making $2 million, earning $2 million off of the movie and having it in your bank account. That's two different things.
Before people make their decisions on this case on the ESPN, read it, make up your own mind. That's all you can do in stuff like this. And I will say, Kevin and I were talking, we didn't think in a million years you would actually come on because there's a court case. And generally, my experience in doing this in 20 years, and it could be wrong, people who can't speak freely will not go on to something like this where you don't know where the conversation's going. Mm-hmm. Anything you say is on the record.
Yeah.
To me, that generally speaks volumes to somebody coming up. And this is clearly not a plan. You're pretty open answering everything we're asking.
Well,
again,
like I said,
yourself.
My legal guy wasn't thrilled about it, but I wanted to have one thing that I could say. No, I already said that. And two, like it's I don't have anything to hide from it. I wasn't named in the lawsuit, which isn't in the lawsuit. It's a probate. We're not even worth going to, but it's just ironic. I mean, you read the ESPN article, which it's been sent to me. Everyone that's DMing it to me. Thank you guys. I've seen it, so you can cut it. But like the end of it is like the Tuohy family couldn't be like reached for a comment on this. Like I'm so easy to find on social media. I run a company that my contact information is very public. They didn't DM me or message me like.
I mean, this materialized in like an hour, so it didn't.
And by the way, this is one of my pet peeves of all time. The article's written. There's nothing, even if you did. Articles like that are written, then they're done, and then you go to the subject just to try to maybe add credibility. Like, well, he couldn't defend it. So, again,
I don't know that I would have talked to him, but it just when I saw that it said that, I'm like, I'm the easiest. The NIL collective for UCF, the Kingsley run, like my email couldn't be more in your face. Like, please email me if you want to donate to UCF. So I get that guy was just regurgitating a lot of the probate, and it's not, he wants views and stuff, and he's got a job. So I get that, but it wasn't like new from me, just taking information and trying to repackage it.
So one last thing, I feel like just kind of at the heart of this is just the relationship between him and your family. Once he went pro, or like at what point was it not did it go south, but did you guys just kind of like go on your separate lives? Like he's an adult now, he has a family, whatever he does. Or like, were you still getting together for holidays? Were you all that, or was it just like, thank you for what you did, we'll talk to you at Christmas, but see you later?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, there wasn't one moment. I mean, I can go through like timelines of things, and I will never, you will never hear me say anything bad about Michael Oher in any capacity, other than I'm upset that he feels the way that he does. And I think some of the things that were mentioned in the probate or book, whatever, I don't necessarily agree with, and I don't remember it happening like that.
What's like the number one thing that you feel like is being mischaracterized?
I don't know, because my number one thing is like more personal than number one things. You know, like people were talking about money this and money that, and I'm like, you lived there for 3 months, man. I got 2 Christmas card pictures with you on it. I know that it was longer than 3 months. Like, it's a crazy thing to put in an article. I got 2 pictures to prove it right here. But that's okay. Like, if that's how he remembers that time, man, that's not none of that truly matters. Mike is crazy successful in life. He played 9 years in the NFL, I think 8 years, something like that, which is way longer than people play. He's got 4 awesome kids. He's married. He's got a great house in Nashville. He's got a great life. So like that's the point of the whole thing. Is it like good for him, right? That's a win. We're doing our own thing. Collins and I have different endeavors that we do. My parents are mid-60s and retired. Like you hate to say the story's over because I'm not going to make light of the stuff that's happening in the media going around. Like, it is, you know, whatever. But you're not going to hear me talk bad about him, because I truthfully think very highly of everything. To your initial question of you know, things that are mischaracterized, it just depends. Like, I think that that wasn't this question. I rambled so far. I forgot this, but the mischaracterization piece is that I think some of the timelines are a bummer. But like, who cares? It's 20 years ago, and that's how he chose.
Well, yeah, no. My initial question was like, when did it like?
Oh, sure.
Did you?
Oh my God! Did you hear that word salad? Did you hear that rambling? He kept trying to reiterate. It's not a lawsuit. It's a probate. Aren't probates proceedings that deal with wills? He said probate accounted 3 times. 3 times. Never really answering the question. Never answering the initial question. He wants to dance around that question. Instead, talk about, oh, it's nothing, y'all. This is nothing. It's just a regular old probate. He's not upset about anything. This is just a normal proceeding. And rewind back and note how he said, I have nothing to hide. And he couldn't even get the words out. I have nothing to hide. I wasn't named in the lawsuit. Well, we understand that you were a minor. However, you are fully aware, in my opinion, of what your parents have done.
You know, when you went your separate ways, was it because of a fallout, or was it just like, I grew up and I became a man, I'm not your kid anymore? When did it kind of stop being like, I live here and you're my parents and my siblings?
Yeah, sorry, long day. I don't remember the timeline. There were so many times, which my initial ramble was to say when I talked bad about him. Mike bought me my first car. Like, I remember he came into when I was a 16-year-old kid and was like, is this the car that's in the background of your computer? I'm like, oh yeah, it's a Dodge Challenger. And he's like, you don't like it in other colors other than black? I'm like, no, whatever. And there's a red Challenger outside. Like, I had my first kiss in that car. Okay, so like that is there's 100 things like that through my life that would have never happened. Great memories. I mean, I went to college in Baltimore because he was there. He played for the Ravens. I could have gone to a lot of places to play basketball. I was not very good, but I had some smaller Division I, Division II offers, and I wanted to go there because it was a cool school. It was a great spot. But he was 20 minutes away, which is awesome. That was the coolest thing of all time. Like, in that scheme of life, they won the Super Bowl, and like he would be on road trips and leave his garage unlocked with Ashton Martin in it, which wasn't very smart. Sorry, Mike, if you see that. And tons of stuff like that I would never take back. So the relationship, I was in the Super Bowl he won it. I was at the Super Bowl he lost it. That was I was a senior in college, 16, 17. I told you, he gave me great advice in 2021 when I was trying to come here. It's kind of been perpetual, and I think to some extent families do that as you get to be older and do your own things. I hope that's more the case, but there wasn't one moment that I point to like, man, that moment is when it all went south. I think when my dad sold his company, that's when like money started being more relevant because someone put a big article out, about that, and it was unrelated, but maybe that was it. I wish I knew that moment, because then I could go back to it and go, whoa, like let's figure this thing out. I truthfully don't know that moment. It may not exist. So.
When's the last time you talked to him?
Within the year in text. I mean, I would go. He lives in Nashville, or outside Nashville, and I would go once or twice a year. I mean, his son MJ. I would try to check in yearly, but it's been. We did Christmas. I don't know. I think I sent. So that picture 2018 we did Christmas, and then I saw him in 2021 when I was first got to Liberty, and then we talk in texts throughout the year, but I'm not in the last couple months, which makes sense now.
This is one of my last questions. And by the way, listening to the way you talk, there also is always an element of there can be sort of two truths. Like he down the road may have interpreted things differently or thinks he got taken advantage of, where your fans like, whoa, that's not how it went at all. And you're around people, both sides. But my question, and you may not have this answer, but I got to ask it, because from the ESPN article, one of the major early things is somehow it seems like they are asserting your family tricked them into doing a conservatorship as opposed to like an adoption, something that I'm totally not familiar. Do you know why that it was put at, like, the argument being that he lost power of attorney essentially by going conservative? I can't say the word conservatorship.
It's impossible. I practiced before I came on here to get it right. So I haven't said it for that reason.
So what do you know the reason the family chose that as opposed to straight adoption?
It would have been smart for me to probably have looked through that stuff before hopping on a live radio broadcast. I don't know. Like, I think that, I don't want to refute things that he said about timelines, but my guess is that it started before he was 18, and then the process finished after he was 18, and that was maybe a more clean legal way to do it. There's nothing like tying. Again, I don't know Brittany's conservatorship. I messed it up too. Situation, but there's no like money being held anywhere that's like that. There's no thing. Nothing's being conserved. Like this morning when I called my dad, I'm like, I was the dumbass who sent the ESPN article. Like everyone sent it to me, and he's like, "Yeah, thanks, I saw that." I'm like, yeah, okay. So, but I said, like, is there anything that he's like, no, he can be out of it. I don't know. Like, we'll let him know right now. Like, there's no if that was the reason for the suit, it would be over in 5 minutes. I mean, there's punitive damages mentioned and stuff like that goes way deeper. But that piece of it, I don't think is going to be any kind of holdup of like us holding that over, or there's no power of attorney that's still being held. And thankfully, again, because I was accusatory of my parents to some extent. Like, I want to make sure I'm not defending the wrong side of this thing, right? Like, I'm 30. I'm like, walk me through this thing. Like, give me everything that you think why is this happening. Which is sad. I mean, it's a sad combo to have, but the everything thankfully is very well documented. So that
there he goes again with that word, well documented. No, the reason why he isn't saying the word conservatorship, it's not that difficult. It's because he wants to change the narrative. He doesn't want to say the word conservatorship. He doesn't want to say the word lawsuit. He prefers instead probate, because he's trying to change the narrative. That's all he's trying to do. Because he knows as a 30-year-old man that there was no reason for his parents to enter into any sort of legal document with Michael Oher. The thing is, if you didn't adopt him prior to him turning 18 and he was around for several holidays, as his brother has stated, why do it when he's off to college?
The legal piece of it will play itself out, and I think that they'll hopefully not be defamation. But like all the defamation and stuff, like, should we turn and do this? Like, for what benefit? Like, so to prove that you were right and spend a bunch of money on it and take your other son's money? Like, there's no. And I think that's going to play out probably, I'm sure, in the legal process. I don't know. Again, I don't want to speak too much legal piece because my God begged me not to. But I don't know, but thankfully everything was documented in terms of every dollar that was received from the movie.
There he goes with documented. Again, documented. And that double speak. Why do a defamation lawsuit? But I think it's going to happen. So to me, this is like a soft threat to Michael Oher. If you don't stop talking shit about us, we're going to sue. It's double talk.
That if he declined it, if he deferred it, where it went into certain things, every dollar that could have been given that was declined, it's all very, very documented, which is great, and hopefully that provides peace of mind. And that was one of the texts that he initially sent to us. I don't want to put the family group text out, but when this all clears up, hopefully we can go back to being like that. I hope that's the case. I don't know if cat's out of the bag. We'll see. But I truthfully, and again, I don't know which clip of some dumb butt thing that I've said in this interview is going to go viral. I'm sure it'll be the wrong one. But if one does, I hope it's the fact that people go, man, that kid still loves his older brother, and they have a disagreement about what's going on, and nothing will be the same ultimately. But I hope both parties are still positive. He has a great line in this book that just came out that said, "Be relentlessly positive." And I'm that way. I tried to get my Barstool Stay Positive hoodie, but I realized that I haven't had it in 5 years. But I'm so positive for things in his life, positive things in our life. Hopefully we'll go that way and it'll be fine, but we'll see.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on.
He got one more documented out before that was over. And he couldn't even elaborate about the relationship and his desire for it to go back to whatever he thought it was prior to the lawsuit, aka probate. He went right into talking about his Barstool pals. Listen, I want y'all to share this video, like it, even if you don't subscribe to my channel. Like this video, share it, get it moving. As I stated yesterday, I've reviewed 10 years worth of IRS documents, and it is a hot mess. This ultra wealthy family, $200+ million, are some of the stingiest people I've ever seen as far as a nonprofit. And some of the cast of characters that have donated, and some of the things that she's donated to. I mean, it's really ridiculous. One of my pet peeves is nonprofits that solicit donations. But in this case, there were years where she was, I guess, too busy to solicit donations. She didn't do a lot of, she didn't receive a lot. One of those years, she donated $90,000 to, or not she, the foundation received a $90,000 donation from themselves. Okay, which is okay. We understand what write-offs are. We get it. But my pet peeve is nonprofit foundations that take money and don't do what they should do with it. Now, this is a stray bullet that someone else, another foundation, is about to get hit with. But for example, last year, or maybe it's, year before last now, but I think it was last year when there was that terrible ice storm in Texas. I have some cousins in Houston. It was so cold. I mean, it was colder in the house one day than it was outside. There was no power. And it had to have been the weekend. I cut the TV on and I see Paul Goodloe from the Weather Channel. He's in Texas. He's interviewing a nonprofit called Mercy Chefs. I listened to it because what I heard was a Louisiana last name. And so when I hear a Louisiana last name, it kind of gets my attention. Paul Goodloe interviews, the founder, I guess you could say. And the last question he asked was, so where can people find you for a hot meal? Because their organization is about delivering hot meals to people that, have lost power during a natural disaster. He never really answered that question. He said, we are near whatever it was, some part of Texas there. But he never, gave an exact address. Like if I said, I'm at the Superdome, you could also say, I'm at 1 Championship Square. That's the exact location. So anybody could find their way to a hot meal. But this guy is so vague that I don't know where to send my cousins. I have no idea where he is. He's just near something. If you know anything about Houston, it's about 500 miles long. He could have been anywhere, right? So I'm still thinking, well, I'm going to donate something. So I go and I pull their records. Big mistake. So I see where Mercy Chefs, have an $8,000 painting in their paperwork. When I donate money to Mercy Chefs or any place like that, it is to buy food, not an $8,000 painting to go on a wall. And to backtrack just a little bit, when Tuohy says, well, they offered to make a donation to a charity of our choice. Typically, a charity of your choice is something else other than yourself. You could have donated to the American Cancer Society, wounded veterans, adoption agencies, homeless children, battered women, anything. But instead, this ultra wealthy family decided that they wanted that money for themselves. These are good Christians. These are Christians. Conservative Christians. Don't forget to like and share this video. I'm going to put up the remaining documents, the IRS documents. And y'all tell me if y'all think that this woman is the saint, or these people are the saints that the movie The Blindside portrayed.